Hi friends, we're going to paint our Cocoa and Christmas Cookies tier tray kit. Hopefully you received the instructions and I've kind of had a chance to look over those. I have separated everything out by color, so I'm starting with brown, and then over here in this little tray I have all of my pieces separated into these little sections by color. So that will help keep us organized and moving right along. So I am going to use my tray over here also to put my paint into, try to keep my work area a little bit neater. So starting with my brown and one of my wedges, you're just going to dip the flat end of your wedge into the brown paint and work it into your wedge. You want to just keep dabbing until you're getting a nice even coat without peaks. So when I say peaks, if you look at this, you'll notice like globs, those peaks. And when you dab, you get big peaks in your paint. So I'm working it all in, making sure that I don't have any of those. And on these larger pieces, I'm just going to swipe over the entire surface. You always want to go from the inside out to avoid leaving a gloppy edge on the side of your pieces. I'm not doing a very heavy coat. I like this sort of milky brown. I don't want it completely opaque. I like how you can see the wood grain, and it's more of, like I said, a milky cocoa color as opposed to a coffee, a dark coffee color. So just a thin coat, swiping all over. That's that. And then moving on to white. So all of these pieces, put my snowflakes. This one's supposed to be red. Did I take out the red pieces also? Yes, I did. Okay. So for white, these are all of the pieces that we have. It's quite a few pieces. You have plenty of white in your kit. So I'm just taking off the little corner of this. Scissors are helpful. Okay, I'll give you a little bit cleaner cut, but again, work that paint into your wedge, and we're swiping with the brown because that was a lot of larger pieces. For these little pieces with lots of details and corners, you want to make sure that you use that dabbing motion in order to prevent any glop on your edges. So you maintain those nice, clean, crisp edges. So I can swipe over, you know, this bottom portion of this, but we don't want to leave paint drips on our edges. So I've got one little coat down, and then I'm just going to use those dabbing motions to complete my coverage. And I'm starting with this one because it's the largest piece with the least number of edges, and I want to really make sure that I get white paint worked into my wedge. So starting with that one, and I'll kind of work my way into the smaller, more detailed pieces. I'm not painting the bow tie. We're going to leave that to do blue, or you could do it green or red. I did realize while I was doing this that I want to deviate a little bit from the plan, and I'm actually going to paint this white. So I'm just going to go over this brown. I'm going to do it now because it might take a second coat. Sorry, I was not clear. I'm going to do a coat of white, and then I'm actually going to paint this brown. Gosh. I'm going to do a coat of white, and then I'm going to paint this blue. I had originally planned to do it brown with the blue on the border, but I think I want to just have this be all brown, white and blue. So I'm covering up that brown with white. Spur of the moment decision here. Okay, and then this will just be white. Give that a second to dry, and piece is also white. Okay, now moving on to red. Okay, we don't have a lot of things that need to be red, so I'm going to start with that. I can always dump out more paint, but the first thing I'm going to do is actually these little stripes on your peppermint stick. So make sure that your blue paintbrush has red paint well mixed in, or well saturating your bristles. So just really work some paint in. And then starting with the easiest one is going to be this one down here. And I would suggest starting with just some dabs and seeing how the paint lies, getting comfortable with the way that the paintbrush is going to apply the paint. And those edge lines are there to help you. I am not following them exactly. So if you notice, I went all the way edge to edge, even though this technically leaves a little bit of a border. Okay. All right, there we go. All right, hard part done. I'm going to go ahead and just use my paintbrush on this tree because all of it gets covered except the very edges. So I'm just basically cleaning out my red paint on my brush on those edges. Okay. I'm going to use the other end of the wedge that I used for white for my red because I don't have very much red at all. You could just trim off the end of this if you wanted to use this larger end. So I've got paint in here. I want to make sure it's not gloppy, and so dab off that extra. Okay. As I dip back into the red, I'm going to come and dab off the extra before I move on to my letters. If if you ever do get too much paint on your letters, it is difficult to get off, but not to clean up your edges, but not impossible. So what I would do is make sure your paintbrush is clean, and get it a little bit damp, and then you can use that to push the paint through either the top or the bottom, and just kind of try to clean up the edges. So when you lay down your piece, ultimately you'll have clean edges on your finished pieces, especially with your pieces stuck on the silicone paper. If you have a glop on there and you let it dry, which it dries quickly, so that's going to happen, when you peel it up from the paper, that glop is going to peel up with it and be transferred onto your piece. So I think some people think that when they peel it up it's going to stay there. It doesn't. It'll go with you. So it's one of the reasons I stress so much to make sure you're not using too much. You can always go back and do a second coat, but it is difficult to remove paint that you don't want. Okay, that is all for red, except go ahead and do on your small tree. Go ahead and dip the tip of your brush into your red paint and fill in these little polka dots. You can make, if you want to kind of use the Little Debbie tree cakes for your inspiration, I think the Little Debbie, they would be, you would use green and red on here. So I'll leave some spots open for green. That is all for that. Okay, I'm going to move on to blue. And I'm going to start with this piece because I want to make sure that I have time to do another coat if I need it. Okay, so while I am doing this, I'm going to go ahead and do some of that snow because it's going to be thicker, and so I want to give that time to dry. So I like that these aren't all the exact same size or shape. Gives a little bit of dimension. If you also subscribe to our door hanger kits, we did some splatter snow on the background of that this month, and that is really fun, and also love the dimensional look that it gives to do it like that. A lot of this is going to be covered by that snowflake, so I'm going to leave it as is, and if I want to, once I've laid the snowflake down, if I want to come back in and add some more, I can certainly do that. Okay. All right, so moving on to my other blue pieces. There's not a lot of blue, but there's enough. Let's see here. I'm gonna actually add blue into this white tray here because once I paint these, I am gonna mix the white and blue together to add just some little polka dots onto my cups here. You could do stripes or really anything you wanted. You can paint this one You could do it brown with the white on top if you wanted it to kind of look like a Christmas cookie. I just wanted to incorporate a little bit more of the blue because I love this shade of blue, but it's your sort of creative call there. Okay, so also almost forgot this little guy here. I'm gonna do his bow tie. Okay. Okay, I've cleaned that red paint out of my brush, and if you wanted to do the splatter effect on this piece over here, your background for the snow, now would be the time, because your bristles are wet. So you want to really make sure that if you're going to do that, you want to really make sure that your bristles are very wet and have a little bit of extra water on hand. And you're just going to mix some white paint with water and do like a flicking motion to splatter paint onto your piece. But I'm going to go ahead and mix over here this blue and white together. Okay. That is well mixed in. And there is one of your snowflakes goes on here. So I'm going to start a polka dot there. Just, again, I like to kind of do it inconspicuous so that if I need to make any adjustments, it's in a place that will kind of be covered up. So I like the color combination. I like how that's looking. So I'm just going to go ahead and just make a few more polka dots on here randomly. So for the polka dot, just set your brush down and keep the center in one spot and rotate around that center. You want to make sure your brush is well saturated. Okay, I'm happy with that. And over here, you could just do polka dots with the end of your paintbrush if you wanted. I'm going to attempt just some little imperfect ones. Okay. So there those are. If you want to fill in this a little bit and give it a chance to dry some, and then you can come in where it kind of leaves those stroke lines. You can come in and fill them in a tad. You don't have to. I think it looks neat with the spiral in the center. So certainly not necessary to cover those up. Okay. Last but not least, I'm going to, with my white, just a little bit of fresh white over here. Okay, finally, on these guys, I'm gonna just do a little bit of like a swiping with the brown to kind of resemble like the toasted. So just going along where those ridges would be with my wedge has like so little dried, mostly dried brown paint in it. It's just leaving slight accent lines on here. Okay. Just that one, and gonna do the same thing on this one. Okay, let's piece everything together and we'll be done. All right, I'm going to lay everything out. Uh-oh. Never anything that a little damp rag or wet wipe won't fix, so. Okay, done. Okay. Now, let's lay everything out so we can find what we need. Goodness, it's got another little, oh no, that's the back of the tape. Okay, thought we had blue paint on there. All right, so I'm going to start with this guy. You're going to just peel your pieces off your parchment paper. And carefully line it up. If you're new to these adhesive pieces, the adhesive is very strong, but it's pressure sensitive. So if you don't press down, you should still be able to remove it and reposition. So that is lined up. Once you press down, it's done for. You cannot, there's no saving it once you've pressed it down. So make sure it is where and how you want it before. Okay. A little peppermint stick up top. Oh, we have a snowflake that goes on here. Let's see, that one goes there. This one goes on our mug. I'm going to give that just a second to finish drying. I'm just going to peel this. And I'll do the other one and come back to this. But that's where that snowflake is going to go. Stick that onto parchment paper for now. All right, when you do this guy, you're going to lay down your pieces on your parchment paper first so that you have a good idea of how you want it. This little cup can go in a few different places. So just kind of lay it out, figure out how you want it all to be positioned. Okay, so You can do it like that. You can center everything and have your coffee mug kind of off to the side, off of your piece. You can put these down here. Okay. So, and this doesn't have to be perfectly on there. You can kind of have it coming off. I did see someone put their pieces kind of around it. I was brave. I'm a little bit nervous to try that, but I kind of like the idea. So let's So you will have to decide how you want yours. I'm going to go ahead and do it this way just so that y'all can kind of have an idea about difficulty level before you dive in with yours. All right, so if I am going to space these out. Okay. I'm just very gently laying this down because I want to make sure I can pull it up if I need to. Darn it. So if I draw a line over, then I kind of know that this OA is going to have to be a little bit above that line. Okay, I'm going to move this all up so that I can inch that H up a little bit more. This one, you want to be careful. There is a specific way that it needs to go. So you want to find the two tips that are, what am I trying to say, right on top of each other, and the longest center line, because it doesn't work any old way. It's got to be this way, or it won't line up correctly. Okay. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and add the green sprinkles to our Christmas cookie.